Hello, hello. Welcome to Human Design Coffee Talk. Today we have Jonah Dempsey, 5'1" Sacral Generator on, joining Teresa and I today. Hello, hello. We'll wait for them to jump on. There's Teresa. Yes, Jonah. I can't respond. Let's see if this works. Hello, hello, everybody.
Hello. I just saw your story how you were like, just an MG with a defined root and a coffee talk in 30 minutes. I was like, damn, her hair's still wet.
Yep.
Impressive.
Right? I know. That's just how it goes. That's not Jonah. Somebody just requested to join. That was not Jonah.
Only Jonah. Rude.
Probably an accident.
Just kidding. Hi.
Hi.
All our friends coming on.
So just a reminder, if anybody has any questions, a couple things. Sometimes we can't see them. Instagram won't let us scroll back. So if you could drop them in the question box, there's like a little talking bubble with a question mark. Drop them in there so that way we can see them and decide if we want to respond to them. Also, last time Instagram cut us off at 60 minutes. If this goes over, we will just hop right back on. So, oh, there's Jonah. Right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Jonah.
Hey. How's it going?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Got your coffee.
Fine today. Really excited.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
I know. I was like, I can't believe we haven't had Jonah on yet.
I know. But we just needed something to respond to, and then one of my friends reached out and was like, did you see Jonah's new course? You should have him on and talk about it. I was like, yes. Operating from response.
I've been a big fan. I've watched a lot of your coffee talks. Your interview with Alokanand Diaz had such a huge impact on so many people.
Yeah.
People were crying. I don't think anyone's. I think it's going to be a little different, but
You bring the joy, Jonah.
okay. I do have the joyous.
No, we can't compare it to a lock.
So.
So I kind of want to start out with, you're pretty well known through your YouTube videos and your human design stuff. But for those of you that don't know Jonah, I would love to hear, Jonah, kind of like, what was your introduction to human design and how you kind of entered into your experiment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I first discovered human design in 2006, but it took me about 9 years to actually enter into the experiment. So there was a pretty big gap there. At that time in 2006, I was deep in the work of Rick Tarnas. He's an archetypal astrologer, Jungian. I loved Carl Jung. I would lecture on the work of Jung and Hillman, James Hillman. And so when I first found human design, it really didn't have the weight, it didn't have the, it was kind of like academia. Like it wasn't academic enough. It just seemed very superficial and fluffy. And I couldn't have been more wrong, but I don't have too much regret about that because it just wasn't the right time. I think it shows that there is a time for these things. And at that time in 2006, I was just not ready. I was in my 20s and I wasn't really ready to. I was working at Amazon.com. I just wasn't ready to really take it in. And of course, some 20-year-olds will take it in, some kids will take it in. It just depends on where people are at. But for me, I wasn't ready for that. And so it wasn't until 2015 that I actually entered into the experiment. And it was, it's a bit of a story. I don't know how much of a story you want.
Yeah, tell us.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So it was September 12th, 2015, and I was at the Imagine Festival on Orcas Island up in the San Juan Islands of the Pacific Northwest. That's actually where I am right now. Not quite there, but I'm in Seattle, just visiting some friends and family. Yeah, and so I was going to this festival. It was the first one. It's in this beautiful location. I mean, Orcas Island is a little slice of paradise. Any shores people out there, if you're looking for a good place to live, check out Orcas Island in the Pacific Northwest. Incredible. There's nowhere else like it. I mean, there's wild animals everywhere and just eagles soaring, and it's so beautiful. And I'd been there before. I'd been to Dobe, but this was the first music festival, music, art, culture. Interestingly, the Imagine Festival, it's still going on. They actually they bring in like Charles Eisenstein, and they bring in just a lot of alternative kind of people. They haven't done human design, interestingly. But I was there with my friends, and then I had a partner, and she was trying to finish her novel and really decided not to come because we were kind of staying at this nice villa. And she's like, you go on without me to the event. So it was Saturday around noon, and I was there completely alone. And I was sitting in a field, and this woman came over to me with grapes. So the first thing she said is, "Would you like some grapes?" So it was kind of nice. I mean, it's like I was kind of all alone. There was like nobody around, really beautiful scene. We ended up talking for 4 hours. Her name is Antonina, and she'd just been traveling in Europe and just picked up human design, kind of picked it up in her travels. And it was her first time in the Northwest. I never actually saw her again after that. It's really funny how these things work. Someone enters into your life, they give you human design, and you might never see them again. You just kind of pass it on. And as far as I know, she's not really involved either at this point. So it's kind of interesting. It's like she transmitted it. She's a 2/4 reflector. And so we talked for about 4 hours. She told me all about being a 5/1 and being a generator. And when she started, I'm like, oh, I know this. Yeah, I know this. I've seen this before. I didn't know it. I hadn't seen it. I mean, I'd seen it, but I hadn't really seen it. And so by the end of it, I was shaken to my core. And the rest of the day, I experimented with that. I mean, the rest of my life, I've experimented with that. It never really stopped. It's kind of starting that day. I'm like, okay, what happens if for the first time in my life, I'm having a conversation, I think of something I want to say, I don't say it. I just let it go and wait to respond to the next thing. Wait for there to be silence. Wait for there to be nothing. What happens if I walk into a place, instead of immediately doing something or taking an action, I do nothing? And that's what I've lived by. But it goes a little deeper, and it actually gets a little spooky. So what some people don't tell you, now I have a question. Are you both familiar with Richard Rudd's work, 7 Years on the Wheel of Passage?
Yeah.
You know that one? Okay. So have you ever so for those who don't know, that's a book that he wrote about human design before Gene Keys, where he lays out 7 years of deconditioning. Now, have you found that to be true? Either of you looked into it?
Yeah, we actually refer back to it to each other, like in text often. Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't discover it until I was about a year in. I think I would have been scared. 1 year, almost my 1 year anniversary exactly, I found that book and I go, okay, that's about right. So I don't know what Rudd has done is he starts in gate 3, which is chaos at the beginning. And he uses gate 3 kind of based on things Ross said about how gates 1 and 2 aren't really in the wheel in the same way 63 and 64 aren't really in the wheel. They're kind of not really different gates. They're kind of special gates. And so gate 3 in any case is where he chooses to start. And Rudd found a really incredible mathematical fact. We all know in human design that there's a 7-year deconditioning cycle. So we know that it takes 7 years for cellular regeneration. It takes 7 years really to 7 years to get up on the roof or to come down off the roof, for 7 years to enter into the Chiron, all these different things that take 7 years. We like to joke if something happens, you carry that person with you for the next 7 years. You don't really get somebody out of your system for 7 years. Which, by the way, the practical import is anytime in a job or in a relationship, in a marriage, in a business partnership, in a friendship, and when you get to around 6.5 years, it's a very critical juncture where if you don't reinvent that relationship, that engagement at that time, I mean, really, if you're married, people should have to renew their vows every 7 years. It's actually a good idea to do that, but to renew them in a new way as a new relationship. Because if you don't, those relationships will fall away or sometimes kind of be zombie relationships or just hanging on and stuff like that. But in any case, he found something really amazing, which is that if you take the Rave Mandala, the wheel of 64 hexagrams, and if you look at 7 years and you divide that by 64 hexagrams, it's exactly 40 days each hexagram. It's 39.9998 days each hexagram. And this is an incredible mathematical fact he discovered. This is the proverbial 40 days, 40 nights. So have you actually done that? Have you looked at any of your, because you can look at the kind of general theme for the year. Now, it's fun if you actually take the time. They have these websites that will help you calculate. Like you get your first entrance into the experiment, then you say 40 days from. So for me, it would be 40 days from September 12th, 2015, and it gives me whatever, October 30th, October 22nd, and I kind of did that, and I actually mapped it out. I haven't done this for a couple of years now, but I actually mapped it out, and it's incredible. The first 40 days that I was in human design, my long-term relationship, we were living together, completely fell apart. My girlfriend left me for another guy that she was having an affair with at her work, which I guess it was kind of spurred on by these changes, by me suddenly being a little more, this is kind of, if anything, human design helps everyone get real. When you get real with yourself, when you stop being an imposter, when you stop being a fake. I have an undefined solar plexus, so that's maybe more of an undefined solar plexus issue. But everyone, when you align to who you really are, everyone around you adjusts. And so within that first 40 days of gate 3 theme, chaos at the beginning, long-term girlfriend moved out. I became very sick. I'm on the cross of healing. I had about a year of illness. Well, the illness was probably dormant or latent, but as soon as I began really embracing my design, it all came up to the surface, so it could be healed perhaps. And yeah, that was really the hardest year of my life. But there's a spooky side of it as well. If you have any comments, please. Have you found that to be yourself?
Yeah.
Difficult for either of you, or was that?
In my brain, I haven't gone back through I haven't gone into the 40 days, but I'm reflecting back and I'm just like, whoa. If I go back, yeah.
Well, it's really interesting because, when you get to certain gates, the gate of education through the aura, well, that's the 40 days that you learn about how to tap someone on their shoulder with your aura. Or, you get to the gate of intuition and that's the 40 days where you learn how to access your intuition and so on. So it really is like being in Hogwarts or something, where you get this 7-year program where in 40-day increments, you're sort of invisibly tasked with learning a different aspect of reality and of yourself and your engagement with reality as it is. And it's invisible, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it's spooky because there's a lot of synchronicity involved. The other thing I would mention is that people always ask me about incarnation cross. And one of the things I like to tell them, I have gate 4, so I kind of come up with answers. I come up with good enough answers. Because really, for those out there who have a lot of questions, for the 63s out there, for the cross of consciousnesses out there, it's really about coming up with better and better questions. It's not about the answer. It's about coming up with a question that's so good that it destroys 7,000 other questions you had before, meaningless questions. But in any case, one of the answers that I give them about incarnation cross is that it's how you decondition, and that it gives a hint about what that deconditioning is going to look like for you. And so for me as a cross of healing, that deconditioning is going to have something to do with healing and something to do with changing from the homogenized cross of healing, who's really a control freak trying to control everyone else. So, the way your doctor asks you when you're sleeping, asks you what you're eating, tells you to stop doing this, tells you, they tell you to sit still, and they tell you to be innocent in some way, almost gate 25, cut out cigarettes, cut out alcohol, all that stuff. They're kind of puritanical in a way. And so there's this homogenized version of the cross of healing, which is basically how most cross of healings are going to live it out, crosses of healing. But then when you begin to decondition, and this is the spooky part. So you really start to get synchronicities that show you you're on the right track. So the very first day that I had my human design reading from Antonina, and this woman with the grapes, and she gives me human design, I never see her again. It was really, really magical. And she's from Russia, which, by the way, there's a lot of human design activity in Russia. It really is an incredible hotbed for human design. But in any case, she kind of gives me human design, moves on, never see her again. So that night, I'm already experimenting with it. I can't not experiment with it. It struck me so strongly that just everywhere I go now, I'm just kind of waiting and not initiating and seeing what happens. And so I end up with this group of, they're called Zeptospace. They're a group of probably like the current modern day reincarnations of some Renaissance gypsy circus troupe or something. I don't really know. They're Burning Man people, and they're fire dancers, and they're fire breathers, and they're aerialists, and they have all this stuff. And they end up having a very small group that they can take out on the island for this Saturday night at midnight. So this is like 12 hours into my experiment. And they tell me, it's maybe, like 11:30, they say, do you want to come with us on this midnight walk into the forest? And I just go, uh-huh. And, I didn't think about it. I mean, usually I'd be like, well, I'm supposed to get back. I'm supposed to get a ride. My friends told me that they're about to leave, or, I give them some answer. Instead I go, mm-hmm. So we go into the forest, and the first thing they do is they say, they do this very spooky, like, you could die tomorrow. This could be the last night of your life. And if it was the last night of your life, leave a message for future generations, or what wisdom you want to impart. Please, leave this message. And so they give us all pieces of paper and pens. And I write a Jung quote, I'm, some kind of, I wish I could remember what I wrote, but it wasn't really that important. We all write them down, and then we go into the forest, and it's this incredible, it's what I imagine the Eleusinian mysteries were like. It's what I imagine going to the Oracle of Delphi or something, because we're going through the forest and they've spent all day setting it up. So they have troubadours, they have bards doing poetry, and they have a man dressed as Death playing chess, and you have to try to beat him, and they have puzzles we do, and all these amazing things. And we get to, it's all led by a manifester, by the way, Chris F. Honeybear, incredible manifester. But we get to the end, and they have 4 oracles set up in the trees. We're just in the forest. And they have lights, so we can, some lights anyway, and it's moonlit. And the 4 oracles are standing behind picture frames held by fishing wire. And what we do is we get in line and kind of go up to the oracle, and they actually give us one of the messages that someone had written down, earlier of our group. And so the message that I receive is, God helps those who help themselves. Now, I'm not religious. I mean, I was able, because of my background in Jung, to kind of at least have some connection to this word God. It wasn't like so triggering, but I was raised in a way that actually would have been kind of triggering, as a scientific rationalist and so on. And kind of this, okay, God helps those who help themselves. Okay, I mean, that's a very basic statement. But for some reason, maybe because I was just so wide open from having this human design reading, it actually stuck. And I put it in my wallet, and I would look at it every couple days. When I got home, I put it on the fridge. Maybe you'll know where this is going if you're familiar with the incarnation crosses by profile. Do you know, Teresa? Does this ring a bell?
Kind of.
Okay. So, well, I mean, and it's 1,400 pages of material. Ra wrote, or Ra spoke, I should say, this incredible 2-year class that was transcribed as incarnation crosses by profile. And he goes through all 768 profiles, 12 per gate, 64 gates. And that's every combination of profile and cross. So I got that about a year later, and I was just thinking back. It was actually the same week or even the same day that I was doing the Richard Rudd 40 days thing. So I was thinking back to my first introduction to human design and looking at how far I'd come in just 1 year. I mean, the first year of human design, if you make it through that, you've made it. You're on the path, Some people don't. They kind of run away and we don't ever see them again. But if you make it through that and you stick with human design through that level of chaos and disruption into your life that causes, good for you. And so I'm reading it, and I'd read a couple others, but I was kind of curious. I couldn't wait to look at mine, so I kind of skipped forward and I look at mine. And Ra talks about how the incarnation cross of healing that I'm on, he talks about how they try to control people and they're really bossy and pushy and all these kind of homogenized qualities. And he says, but when they decondition, they really learn that it's not their responsibility to heal everyone else. It's not their responsibility to go around telling everyone you should quit smoking and you should do this. And, you know, they don't need to police everyone. In fact, what they learn is a deep truth. God helps those who help themselves. God never uses the word God. And at that point, I looked over at my fridge and I had that piece of paper written there from 12 hours after my reading, and I thought, I'm on the right track.
Wow.
Can't make this shit up.
I'm on the right track. That was, I mean, I was relieved. I thought, okay, I'm doing it. It took me 9 years to get here. At that point, 10 years, I guess.
It's I mean, it's almost like, to me, seeing you, watching you live your life, it was that path between when you first learned about human design and then had that reading. It was like your body knew you were just going to go all in. So it was like finding the perfect, like setting it all up perfectly for you. I mean, even you waiting, I mean, I don't know. It was still like you're following your strategy and authority, even through not knowing about human design. Like, oh no, I don't have a response to it right now.
You waited to respond to it.
In some way, I kind of inadvertently, it's like I couldn't enter into it incorrectly. To get the best trajectory, someone saying, you should check this out, and me looking at it, and then I'm kind of just going on with what I'm doing. And then, when it actually happened, I mean, it took that scenario. It took being alone in this field and this, woman with the blonde hair, with the wind going through her hair, walking up with the grapes. And it took all of the, oh, good point, Shay. Yeah, she caught it. Yeah, it took that sort of synchronistic experience, serendipity, I suppose would be the term.
Wow, it makes so much sense with your design.
That whole encounter in the woods, and that's so Jonah.
I know. I can't see you do. I'm surprised you didn't have to like pay a troll toll or something and cross a bridge.
Oh,
and,
I became friends with the Zeptospace folks. I've actually remained in touch with some of them. I moved away from Seattle about 5 years ago, but before that, I would go every year to Christmas. So their sort of leader, Chris F., would host Christmas, the most incredible Christmas parties. And if you've never partied with Burning Man people, and not just Burning Man people, but like the real experimental, I mean, they're like reincarnated pirates. I don't know. There's a guy who lives on a boat. I mean, I say it semi-jokingly because some know that I like to talk about reincarnation, but I also just use that as sort of a term of, if I had to imagine who they were in a past life, it would be these kind of larger than life figures. But I would go to Christmas every year as, I mean, I love celebrations, but that would be just as an example of what they would do. One year they made a giant, you mentioned a troll, they made a giant goblin king. And they had a whole scenario. It was in the snow, so there was no real danger of fire. But they doused him in gasoline and gave everybody Roman candles to siege the Goblin King. That was sort of the final, the kind of final step. It started with Chris F's girlfriend getting kidnapped. A guy dressed as a goblin came in, threw her over his shoulders and ran out. And we're like, oh, we got to chase him. And we go out there and there's all these other goblins play fighting in different scenarios. And, and we were given these, Roman candles to shoot at the giant goblin made out of hay bales doused.
I love how jokingly mention it and you're like, actually, I have a goblin story.
Well, it's a manifestor story. They really have an impact, and it's incredible what they can do. I mean, this guy, there's a lot of people that have a rich imagination, but some people put their, rich imagination onto a canvas or into a poem. Manifestors put it out in the world in a big way. They impact everyone there. That evening, I'll never forget, we beat the Goblin King, and then we all looked around and we thought, where's Chris F? It was his birthday as well. So it's his birthday, Christmas party, and so on. Where's Chris F? Where's Chris F? We don't know. So we get back in the house, and there's this giant teddy bear. I'm talking like as big as, you know, up to the ceiling, this giant teddy bear. And there's a woman who had been with us on the party before who said, it's story time. Come, I'll read you a story. We all sit down and she reads us a story, and it's a story of a teddy bear coming to life. And as it comes to life, this teddy bear, sure enough, it's Chris F. Inside the teddy bear, he has like cut a hole in the back or something and entered in. And then it's this story of the teddy bear giving birth, and he cuts his way out of the stomach and chest of the teddy bear, nothing going everywhere, and emerges, you know, victorious. These people don't know human design, but they don't really need to, you know. Sure, they might benefit from it, but honestly, if you've gotten there without it, you're doing just great. You're doing just great.
Oh my gosh, what a dream for innocence too. Like you could just, that was just like a playground.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful. So, I mean, I go to Burning Man every year now, and it's interesting to see that a lot of what we understand in human design has seeped into the consciousness in different ways. It's not that people get the whole story. It's not that they have the same vocabulary. And there can be certain homogenizing aspects where they just expect everyone to be a certain way or everyone to have a certain configuration. But it's still a relief to me. When I first got into human design, I thought everyone needs to know this. And I kind of went through the horror of the not self and how terrible the world is. And it's true. I mean, there is a horror of the not self. Each of us faces it, but there's also a lot of good in the world. And there are a lot of people who are, if anything, what human design gives is a vocabulary, and it can help people to get aligned so that if they're astray. Some people are lucky enough to have already basically found a really good group of people, to found their vocation in life, their direction, and so on. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I would be the same person I am today if I hadn't found human design. I know I wouldn't. I mean, there was so much that I just was missing, but I'd found some of it. It's a combination. And that's why I think you can't really get it unless there's certain things where you go, oh my God, finally there's a way to describe this thing I've been experiencing. Finally, I know why I'm so uncomfortable if I have to walk up and talk to somebody and start a conversation, why it's so much easier if I just hang out and wait for it to emerge. And kind of, there's a lot of letting yourself off the hook. I guess that's the point of surrender. It's that there can still be this deep conditioning of, I have to do something. I have to make my life happen. I mean, at the deepest level, it's even a question of death. You really can't mess up death. But there's a fear of death, and it's almost a performance anxiety of, I'm going to mess this up, or I'm going to not fulfill my purpose. And I think there's a real relief in sort of embracing this, you can't mess it up. All you can really do is surrender to really allowing things to happen the way that they're meant to happen. I do have some interesting divergences with, for instance, Mark Germain. I don't know if you're much familiar with him. He'd be a great guest. Have you had him on ever? Oh, you've had Mark. No, you haven't?
That's a great. I've watched all your videos with him.
Oh, he is so incredible, and he's such a great conversationalist and hilarious. And we like to talk about no choice because we have very different interpretations of no choice. I'd love to hear what do you, I mean, there's many different parts of human design. Do either of you have any opinions on no choice, or on what that means, or how you understand it? Or I'm always curious what people say about that.
You know, I've gone through my whole emotional process with no choice. And, you know, I have 1222, so I don't know. And I keep coming back to, I don't know. I don't really know what no choice means. And I feel like I'm okay with that right now. And I'm still taking in different perspectives on it, because I've kind of like tried on different perspectives, almost like a, you know, glasses to try on and be like, what would the world look like if I looked at it like through this no choice lens? And I have to say, when I was kind of resigned to the no choice of everything's fate, we don't have any control whatsoever, like that kind of perspective. And again, that could be the truth, but I think it all just depends on what people, what's helpful for you perspective wise. And when I was resigned to that, I was very negative, and I was very much like, well, I can't do anything anyways. So it very much, when I think about transference, put me in innocence transference of just being like giving me an excuse to just sit around. And it kind of just made my mind a little bit wonky throughout that period. So I'm kind of coming back to center now and just being like, I don't know, I'm open to see what no choice could mean. So I am curious what you've kind of landed on, Jonah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and do you have anything to add to that, Fran?
Well, for me, I've just been kind of experimenting with like the frequency of no choice. Like, what does it feel like? Because there's definitely moments in my life where I like reflect and I'm like, oh, no choice, you know? It's not something that I can like see in front of me or like create a story around, but it's just something that I like turn and look back and I'm like, that's that feeling of no choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the frequency of no choice for me. But then I hear everybody's opinions about it or everybody's experiences with it. And sometimes listening to certain like ways of thought, it can put me almost in like a disassociated, disconnected space.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me in my body, that doesn't feel good or satisfying, just going back to the basics. Like it doesn't feel satisfying.
I really love both of your answers because to me, those are both the first answer, if I can kind of rephrase it. Teresa is, well, it's really that, I mean, I guess, the two answers are the frequency of it and then really what does it do? And so if I could kind of clarify what you were saying, Teresa, is that it's some people, I like to say some people are worried about things they shouldn't be worried about, and some people aren't worried about things they should. And so it's the question of what does it do, where for Mark, he is one of the most gentle, empathic, funny, light, but also real and engaged and, I mean, refined and people that I know. And so for him, I don't want to put words in his mouth, and this would be a great thing to actually interview him about, but his version of no choice is something like determinism. There's some really great comments here, by the way. I see Stella says it's focusing more on seeing rather than no choice. And yeah, there's different ways of understanding no choice, and that's why I like to kind of bring it up. But for Mark, it does have more of a deterministic quality of we are just watching the movie, and the movie is sort of already written. Now, for me, I like both of the answers you both made, because for Teresa's answer, what it's really saying is, what does that do for you? And then Brandy, your answer is kind of, what is the frequency of no choice? And something that I notice, and they go hand in hand. People that are, it's really hard to generalize about people who've been in human design for a long time. But if I had to make one generalization, it's that they're relaxed. They're engaged with the parasympathetic nervous system. They've engaged their, vagus nerve. They're relaxed about things. They're not reactive. I think a lot of what we talk about as resistance is meeting resistance because interrupting the flow of things and not going with the flow of life, or having personal resistance, sort of the mental corollary to that sort of ends up being physical resistance eventually in the body by not surrendering and not accepting. So these are really good ways to kind of see what no choice can mean. My view, and what I talk to Mark about a lot, is that I've been a big fan of studying quantum computing, quantum physics. I love Stuart Hameroff, who talks a lot about how we get to subjectively, I love the study of consciousness. And what Hameroff says is, anytime we're thinking of a way to go in a conversation, we're thinking of a word to choose, we have many possibilities, how to answer a question, anything at all that we're communicating, there's a realm of possibility that collapses when we pick a word or we pick a path. And that is the subjective experience of quantum waveform collapse. And that before that quantum waveform collapse occurs, there's a sort of superposition or indeterminacy. And then once the collapse occurs, it becomes determinate and we go in a certain direction. And so for me, I can't imagine a world where the future has already happened. I just can't imagine a predetermined world. And that also, as a desire person, I really can't imagine that what we do makes no difference. Even Ra saying, follow your strategy and authority, trust yourself, be yourself. I mean, it makes a difference to be yourself. It actually allows you to take your rightful place in the totality and to contribute to the collective and to make a difference in the world. And I believe we make a difference in the world. And so if nothing makes a difference, what are we doing? I mean, it's kind of, how do you reconcile the binary between it's all about decision making and there's no choice? I mean, it's a really funny thing, right? So the way that I reconcile it is that what no choice means to me is basically that there's no choice, but there is awareness. And when we think that we can make a choice, we lack awareness. When we gain the awareness, our trajectory changes. And it was actually a YouTube commenter, I don't want to mess up his name, but if you go on my YouTube, Jonah Dempsey, go on, I think it's my interview with Mark Germain. It's a really good comment on there. So if you look that up, I don't even want to try to say his name. I've said it elsewise. I just don't have it in front of me. But he had the most incredible description. And because when we were talking, or actually it was my interview with Dave Myers, this is where it came up. The very first Frequencies podcast. I've been doing these new podcasts with Dave Myers. And the comment, so Dave and I were talking about no choice. And I was saying it's kind of like being on a plane and your destination is determined. But while you're on the plane, you can get up and move around, and you can kind of either be a good passenger and relax and enjoy, or you can be a really bad passenger and complain a lot or cause a lot of difficulty. He actually, the guy who commented said, no, it's not like that at all. He said something really profound. He said, awareness acts. And I love this simple statement, awareness acts, that he said it's actually the opposite. Not only do you not have the choice to get up and walk around the plane, you can't even control your blinking. You can't even control your breathing. You can't even control your heart beating. You can't control anything. You are completely determined. But your awareness acts on your trajectory. And when your awareness changes, the plane changes where it's going to land. And everything changes about how you speak and how you think and how you breathe and how your heart beats. All of it changes. You're not controlling your heartbeat. You're not even controlling your awareness, but your awareness is growing and shifting. And it's like certain things you just can't unsee. Once you've got strategy and authority, you can't unsee it. That awareness that you have gained, then you get to watch yourself follow it. Not that you're trying to follow it through some sort of intentional mental activity. You go, oh yeah, I guess I'm just doing that now. Oh yeah, I guess I really didn't want to do that after all. I thought I did, but I didn't, or whatever it is. But it's this real shift where what no choice really means is that we're not really controlling our trajectory. We're not really controlling anything, but that there is a difference that is made. And it's really the difference of whether we see or not. So that was a really nice comment from Stella above. She said she prefers to talk about seeing more than no choice. I think it is, because that's awareness. When you see something, or when you hear something, or when you notice something in any way. And then a comment connects to The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Yeah, that's he must be a gate 20. I always think Eckhart Tolle must be I don't know his actual chart, but I always think The Power of Now, it's really a book for insects.
Because that's all they have.
Yeah. But now, yeah. Oh, that's a pretty flower. Oh, that's a pretty flower. It's the same flower. That's a really pretty flower. It's like there's no memory. There's no.
I love that, Jonah. That feels really empowering to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just something. I mean, I have an open head and ajna, so I also, the longer I'm in the experiment, the less energy I actually have. It's like a shift in libido, where I used to have seemingly endless energy to think about things that don't matter.
Yeah.
And that's gotten less and less and less. And also, as a desire person, I'm not really here to observe everything. I mean, we desire people. You're saying you're also desire, Teresa. What is your motivation, Brandy?
I'm hope motivation.
Oh, wonderful. Hope. I get along a lot with the hope people. But in any case, Desire, it really has blinders on. It's not here to see everything or think about it or notice everything. It's here to kind of, it's here to be the priest, and the priest preaches, and they preach. I mean, Ra was desire. He wasn't going to talk about every different possible meaning of no choice. He was here to align people to a version of no choice that was like frequency and did have a real outcome. And so both of your answers are kind of, it's about the frequency and it's about the outcome. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't really talk about it without taking into consideration those two aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I think why our fractal is so important with who we learn from and what we take in, because yeah, my open head could try to take everything in and then get real spinny. And I've noticed the same thing where I just don't,
yeah,
I just don't have time or patience for it, or I just don't want to. It's interesting to watch that refinement happen.
It becomes easier and easier. It was Lars Haglund who said, this is the mantra for open head ajna people. Don't know, don't care.
Yeah, right?
Internally.
Easier said than done.
So these are some sticker comps that we're looking at for the High Desert Human Design Conference, made by Shay Labbe.
Just an example of Jonah in the now,
well,
living in and responding.
And well, as you mentioned, this is fractal, and she made this wonderful sticker. Are you my fractal? It says. It's kind of.
Oh, Shay, those are so cool.
Yeah. I love it. So. I have a sticker, the Getting High on Human Design, on the back of my car, and I have people be like, "What's that?" What's that?
It's just mechanics. Yeah. There's some really good ones. Open Root Wisdom, Slow the Fuck Down. I like that one. Really nice.
Yeah.
And and so I'm just really excited about these. I'm in Seattle, and this is kind of my office away from home, and I've been going through 13 printed pages of workshops for the HDHD conference, 6 pages of talks on the main stage. We're up to 60 workshops, 20 talks, and this is the list of attendees, and we have a lot of attendees. We actually have more speakers and crew than non-speakers and crew attendees at this point. It's amazing, but it just shows. I mean, we're all kind of all in it together.
Well, yeah, we all like to learn from each other, and so I mean that all makes sense. I've really enjoyed seeing the HDHD conference evolve over the years.
Oh yeah, you were there at the first one. I mean, the first one at my home, in like my living room, basically.
It was so fun, though. The good old days.
Good old days. Jonah's living room, hanging out. So, and of course, you'll both be there. And for the viewers at home, I'm pretty sure we're going to live stream it. I'm figuring out how to get Starlink in there. And Human Design Coffee Talk will be live at HDHD, interviewing Brynja Magnuson, who just came out with her book, Yin Mysticism and the Vesica Pisces. And she's done these amazing human design incarnation cross cards. She did the incarnation workbook. I mean, I'm so excited to have her at the conference, and to have both of you, and how it's all coming together is just really exciting. And then you'll also be doing a workshop on generators and manifesting generators.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
It's going to be more skewed towards MGs.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah.
Shop, and we still have time. We have 72 days to really dial it in. So.
Yeah. And if anybody who's watching hasn't heard about the High Desert Human Design Conference, it's September 13th through
17th.
17th. Yeah,
yep.
September 13th through 17th in Santa Fe. And it's just, a lot of us live human design on the Instagram world, and we think that we have these perceptions of who everybody is because we see their charts, we see how they interact online. A lot of people are easy to point out, like, you're not acting like your design, and all these things. And it's truly an experience to be in aura with so many people who are simply following their strategy and authority. It's every year, it's like, it's life-changing. Like, we leave there and it's like we're changed people, not just from the information that we're getting, but just being in aura with people watching the mechanics naturally play themselves out, it's nothing that you can experience online with human design.
It does feel like an alchemical vessel or something. And last year we had 7 reflectors. This year we're on track. I want to say 5, maybe 4. Oh, 5. We have 5 reflectors this year, possibly more. We had 7 last year. And with around 100 people, that's 7 times more reflectors than you normally have. And it was kind of funny because I was joking, it's like, if normally 1 reflector to every 99 people, those sort of 99 auras absorb the reflector. If you think of the reflector as a kind of like a lightning rod for the transits, or even a radio transmitter, but that, like a retransmitter that's taking in the distant neutrino transmission, and a sort of localized transmitter. And of course, as not self, they're agents of the program, but the ones coming to our conference are anything but not self. They're absolutely living their design, and they're emitting such a clean frequency that it's less than a staticky, distorted radio signal. It's more like a beautiful orchestra, this orchestra of the heavens, this sort of harmony of the spheres that's being broadcasted out. And normally about 100 people would absorb that. Well, last year we had 100 people and we had 7 reflectors. So I was joking, it was like being at the nuclear core of Chernobyl, you know. It was have, you know, 7 times the normal amount of neutrino transmissions going on, and people were just having spontaneous epiphanies and breakdowns and awakenings, and it was extremely transformative. And that was not something I expected at all, because when I put together the conference, I basically have 3 tasks. I'm a very left variable person. I'm very logistical. My first one is to make sure everyone has a really good time, so we have a lot of entertainment. My second one is to make sure people get a lot of professional networking experience and that they're able to bond and connect with each other. And then actually third is education, even though that ends up being a big part of it. But that's actually, if I would rather it be a great time where everyone connects and they learn a little than everyone learns a lot, but they don't connect with each other and it's a drag. You know what I mean? So, but none of those really have to do with the personal transformation aspect of it. That's not something you can really predict or expect or anything. And it was incredible to see. I mean, even I've experienced it personally, and each year has been really transformational for me. I had some very big realizations and awareness shifts, and so it's been really special being able to put that on. And of course, I couldn't do it without the help of both of you and our wonderful speakers and organizers and crew. And I would just say, anyone at home, please join the wait list if you're interested in coming, and I can let you know about that. We're also trying to get streaming together. It is a little difficult because we need to set up Starlink and have people do it all and everything. But I'm talking to my streaming guy and trying to get that all, the streaming story straight. Last year we were able to stream, and it was a huge success, and everyone loved it. Who wasn't able to attend, they could still tune in and things like that. But yeah, this year, I mean, I can maybe tell you people a little bit about what we have in store. So on the main stage, we're doing something a little different this year. We're doing Wednesday and Thursday talks, Friday, no talks, Saturday and Sunday talks. And I actually got inspired by Alokanand Diaz's wonderful Per La Vida event in Costa Rica, where he would do 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. I really liked that format, that too many days in a row on, you kind of just get numb to it. So we're doing 2 days on, 1 day off, and then 2 days. Now the day off, we still have some things planned, but not talks. So we start Wednesday, we have talks from Brandy Jordan, Michael Steenbeck-Litvin, Brayton Velazzo, and Janica Lee. So that's the other thing, 4 talks per day. One day we have 5, but we're kind of making it more spacious, making it a little more, we have longer breaks in between the talks. We have a longer lunch break. We have kind of more space all around. Because last year we had a venue that had 2 rooms, and we kind of staggered the talks. We had a lot of talks. People were kind of going back and forth between them. And it was just, I learned so much last year. I learned as a generator, it's so beneficial for me to walk through the audience and to actually connect with each person individually in aura before starting a talk. Because the first day I went up on stage, hey everybody, thanks for coming. Everyone's talking, they're on their phones, nobody's, you know, I learned my lesson immediately. When you're in a large space, you can get away with it in a small space because your aura can kind of tap them on the shoulder. But when you're in a big venue, when you have 100 people there, so beneficial. So I definitely recommend to all the speakers who aren't manifestors, go through the audience, walk through, connect with people, maybe especially generators. You know, projectors might get stuck. They may end up in a 20-minute conversation with someone. Oh, the comment, Ra had dinner in his retreats where you got to order food based on type. Polite man could get whatever they want if they were polite. They're at the middle of the day. Oh, I love that. I love that. So yeah, we've talked about having, you know, eating by PHS and so on. But in any case, yeah, so we really learned a lot. And so this year we're at a new venue. And I like this venue even more. I mean, last year's venue was great too, the Center for Peace and Justice. This year we're at Oddfellows Hall. Really great venue, and it does have 2 rooms, but we're making one room basically hang out, chill out, talk, take a break. So we only have one room for talks, and that was intentional. Sort of reduce the amount of talks, reduce the appearances of speakers in the talks, and then encourage speakers to do smaller workshops to really, my goal is that everybody gets their chart analyzed many times throughout the event. And so at the smaller workshops, they'll have an opportunity to actually get their chart looked at. And we have a form this year where you can fill out to share your body graph, sans any birth information and so on, but just the body graph and your name, to a shared folder. And that way the instructors, like when you were both doing your MG workshop, anyone who attends can, if you'd like, you can look at you'll have it available to pull up their body graph. And what I'm encouraging people to do is something that Alok Diaz did in his Pura Vida retreat, which I really liked. He would have a Q&A session, and then whoever asked the question, he would pull up their chart. So people could see who's asking the question, and then he could answer it in the context of their chart. So they kind of get a mini reading wrapped into it. Really nice way to do it. So yeah, so just as an example, that first day, 4 talks. We also are doing at least once per day. So that first day we have Wendy Ferris doing connection games and body movement. And so she's going to be leading just kind of after lunch. And then on the other days, we have yoga in the mornings. And that's just a nice way to keep people embodied, keep them from getting too tired of sitting. And you know, we're not trying to reproduce some sort of lecture hall atmosphere of people sitting and being talked at. That's the last thing we want to do. We want it to be engaging and so yeah, so Thursday we started off with yoga. Then we have Janica Lee, James Alexander. He's talking on the Epsilon and the Prime. His talk, Is It My Problem or the World's? It's a pretty cool one. Then we have Brayton Plazo on the role of the projector and Jen Cole on projector process. That's actually today we have 5. We finish it out with Amy Lee, The True Nature of the Undefined Centers, which is going to be... And then Friday is off. So you see, it's a much more humane schedule. That was some of the feedback. We generators can handle this sort of 8 a.m. to midnight sort of we're at the event. Some people were like, okay, let's make it a little more humane. Friday is all a day off. So we have 3 instructors leading hiking on Friday. We have a projector only event, which is at this beautiful garden B&B. It's on 3 acres, kind of just outside of Santa Fe, and they have 39 chickens and grow 4,000 pounds of food a year there, and strawberries and potatoes and everything. And so for the projectors, they'll get to go to that projector only event. I thought that they would appreciate that. That's being put on by Melissa Muri and Paul Brownlee, and that will have John and Amy as well, John Cole and Amy Lee. So Friday we have some pretty interesting ones. We have Monica Volkmar doing a movement system called Anatomy in Motion. And this is, so she's a human design person, but she also teaches body movement. And so she'll be doing that. We have aura experiments, different kinds of things there. And then, well, we have some fun surprises. I'll leave a couple of these to be surprises for people, but we have a really fun surprise that day. We have Amanda Prickel, Richard Corbett, James Alexander. Teo Montoya is our newest addition. He'll be talking on consciousness, criticality, and the streams of the awareness centers. And then we have both of you. That's on Saturday, so live episode of the podcast. Sunday, I'm giving a talk on the G Center, Spirit, and Soul. Brynja is giving a talk on the mystical yin in human design. We have Ryan Ohav talking on the embodiment of human design through relational charts and pentas. James Alexander doing practical heresies, a big hit from previous years, and then closing with Brandy. So that's our speaker list, and we really tried to make it no more than, I mean, we have 5 max, most days 4 talks, and then we have some other fun events and kind of live music performances. We're really trying to kind of keep it alive, you know. We don't want to go there to sit down and just receive information. We want to go to have some interesting things to talk about when we're not in class, so to speak. You know, we get some interesting information and presentations. So, and then we also have a bunch of lunchtime chats. People can kind of go out for lunch. And then the workshops, I don't want to bore anyone here, but the workshops are what I'm really proud of. It's funny because when I first,
Jonah,
yeah.
Jonah, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. If we get kicked off, if Instagram kicks us off at an hour, we will hop back on.
Great. Okay, well, and I was just going to say, and I'm also happy to talk about other things and go into any other area, but the thing that happened when we started doing HDHD, a number of people, mostly on Facebook, people I didn't really know, they said, Jonah's a generator, how can he start this conference? And I think it's a kind of an interesting point. And maybe this is something we can talk about if we do get kicked off or if we have to rejoin. I would actually like to talk a little bit about being a generator, handling change. That's just something that's been on my mind a lot. I'm going through a big change in my own life now as I enter into human design full time. That's something I'd love to talk about. Yeah. But I just wanted to say, I mean, generators and manifesting generators are here to build. And we really can't have a vision and then tell everyone that vision and get them to build it. And then we sort of had the vision and they built it. That's not the way we do it. In fact, the vision typically emerges. It's an emergent vision. Oftentimes we start building not even knowing what we're building. And then we look at it and go, oh my God, I built a conference. How did that happen? You know, we kind of take a step back and go, what is this thing I've been building? Yep. But I just kind of mention that because part of my excitement in sharing this is that I've been building this schedule and I love building the schedule. I mean, building the schedule to me is so much fun because I get to kind of, the same way a film director might close their eyes and they see the scene and they kind of think about what they want to happen, or a musician might be like, okay, and that's where the orchestra comes in, and that's where the horn section comes in, and that's where the, you know, and I'm like, and that's where we all go to 10,000 Waves Japanese spa and soak, because we're all going to need a really good soak after that or something, you know.
Where's that at? I want to go there.
Yeah, what?
We are doing 10,000 Waves field trips, and they were gifted to us for free. We're actually building up goodwill in Santa Fe. It's incredible. Liliana Salas, thank you so much for helping us in this regard. It's been really amazing to me to see the support from the Santa Fe community, because part of me always just thinks human design is so weird and these normal people aren't going to get it, and they're not. No, they love human design. They're like, oh, you're doing human design? I've heard about that. How do I help? How can I be involved? I mean, we've had donations from the Oxygen Bar. They're going to be donating their space. We've had the CBD, organics place, Fruit of the Earth. They're actually donating their courtyard to host workshops. And we've had so much support from local businesses and just local community. Pretty much everyone's positive about it. And it's kind of a surprise because I didn't really know what to expect, but anyone who does hear about it are like, oh yeah, human design conference? That's great. What can we do to help? Let's, so, but yeah, I've just been, maybe I'll just kind of finish this up, and then I did want to talk a little bit about some of the generator things, or if you have more questions for me. But the workshops, so this is workshops and special events. This is about 13 pages that I've put together, and I'm just kind of going over it right now. And it might seem like a lot, but the thing is, most of these are maximum 12 participants, maximum 10 participants. A couple are bigger, you know, a couple are smaller. But because of that, what we're really aiming for here is giving people close, small group contact with the organizers, with the instructors, with the facilitators. We just want people to really have the ability to have a personal connection, have their chart looked at. And yeah, and these are mostly workshops, some talks. I'm doing one on the 3 pillars of the human design system: mechanics, awareness, and purpose. Dive in, we'll be doing hands-on chart analysis. I mean, there's too many to list all of them, but just to kind of give a little sampling, we have Peter Berv. He'll be doing an incarnation cross workshop, as well as a couple others. Travis Day is doing human design and sexuality, which is fun. And yeah, and then we have, let's see, I mean, it's just, I really can't list them all. I'll just say anyone who's really interested, if you're interested in coming, send me an email. There's a link on highdeserthumandesign.com. You can email me. I'll add you to the wait list, and I can also send you this if you're curious as to see what we have. Amy Lee and John Cole, the mechanical absolutes of relationship, and they're talking all about partnership analysis. The hard thing for me is I want to go to all these, and I'm always kind of on call. And yeah, I mean, there's a few of these that I just have to go to. So I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly how to do that. But anyway, yeah, we have a lot of fun ones. And we also have a lot of special events this time. We have special manifester only event. We have projector only events. I think yours will be generators, MGs only. Yeah, so many. We have solar plexus workshop. We actually have 2 special guests that I can't announce, which are mystery guests, but I'll just say really, really excited to have them. Very big name OGs. And
I've got a feeling.
I have a feeling. I know who one of them is.
So
I have a feeling.
we're not gonna reveal that just now, but it's very exciting.
I know nothing for certain. I haven't to find out. I have no idea.
We also have 2 remote guests, and this is our first year doing that. So we have Jakub Strateski, accessing sacral response for generators and manifesting generators. This will be a 2-hour Zoom workshop, and for those who don't know Jakub, he's incredible. I mean, he's one of the world's leading human design instructors, basically at I mean, he's in charge of Design America's curriculum. He's led the curriculum for 7 years. He's an incredible instructor for HD America, and just incredible. He lives in Europe, and so he'll be joining us on Zoom. And so it's our first year doing that, but we just couldn't pass up the opportunity to have him. I mean, it's such an incredible opportunity. And then we also have Alokanand Diaz joining us on Zoom. And I just had a wonderful chat with him yesterday about what he's going to talk about and how it's going to be prepared and so on. And so that'll be either 2 or 3 hours. It'll be a presentation, then a break, and then a Q&A session. Really excited about that. Having Alok. He's just wonderful. And I highly recommend anyone who gets the chance to go to one of his workshops, retreats. He did the Pura Vida retreat this past year. Hope they're going to be doing it again. I think they are, as far as I know, in 2024 down in Costa Rica. Incredible, incredible event, and definitely recommend that. Oh, and then we have, so Brandy Jordan will be leading an embodiment space, and Danny Kilpatrick will be doing sound healing, cacao ceremony, pretty interesting things there. We have a couple of workshop guided meditation, yoga nidra type things by Victoria Jane, which I'm really excited about, which will be getting in touch with the centers. We're trying to make it more experiential as well. We really encouraged not just talks, you know, let's do some other things there.
I love how you've really like paid it, like just everybody's uniqueness. We all get something, like, because I'm a generator, I'm going to say this, but different things to respond to. And you're just kind of like, this conference this year feels like it honors like everybody's parts.
Thank you. It really means a lot to me because, you know, I try not to take it personally, but if somebody says they feel left out or they didn't feel happy with the conference or something like that, I take responsibility for that. And I think that's part of desire, not necessarily taking it personally, but just really taking responsibility for it and not saying, well, that's not my business. It's like, no, it is my business. If somebody feels left out, if someone feels excluded, if someone doesn't have a good time for any reason, that's my business. And I really want to make sure that people enjoy it. So we're doing some pretty fun stuff too. So there's 3 hikes we have so far. We might add more. We have a number of other yoga and sound healing events. We have Robert Ray, an incredible 75-year-old tarot master of the tarot.
I'm so excited
who,
for
he's
him.
so good. And he's been in human design for over 20 years. No web presence, no Instagram, no online. These people are out there. It's like
We stayed in his Airbnb last
Yeah,
year, and we
had-
were sitting on the couch, and
we
Brandy goes, "Why is there's an I Ching book here?" And we were like, "We're in the right place."
yeah, we had no idea. And then this year, like Teresa brought him up, and I was like, we stayed at his house.
Well, I didn't realize that. I knew Brandy Jordan had stayed with him a different time. But you know what's interesting? He actually got a shoebox out of the closet full of human design ephemera from 20 years ago. And old binders full of LOID, different kind of, he'd taken the workshops and all this stuff. And
That's amazing.
it creates the space for differentiation to actually be witnessed and honored. These updates make me so lit up for everyone who's coming. Woohoo! Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Simone.
Yeah.
Um,
So Jonah,
Feedback from a reflector.
I want to, can I pivot the conversation?
absolutely, yeah.
Can we talk about, you're going through a pretty big transition in life. Like you are not responding to working full time at your corporate-ish job anymore.
A little different. I put it a little bit. I don't think, so yeah. So this is I actually took a couple of notes, and I thought, what do I, if it comes up, the kind of things that I want to talk about, just because it's been on my mind lately and been kind of part of my day-to-day texture in life and things I've been experiencing. So I wouldn't say that I'm not responding to the work I've been doing. I will say that since I entered human design, there were so many times as a generator that I felt stuck. And feeling stuck is a big part of being a generator. Any type feels stuck. Geez, projectors, they can feel so stuck in these 7-year cycles, having to be invited out of it. There's different ways to feel stuck. And I know reflectors, my mom is one. She's talked about feeling stuck as well, and not having the defined G, and not being able to change where you live or your community, and kind of just being at the mercy of the fates and so on. So I know that generators aren't the only ones, but I had felt so stuck, and there were so many times in the past years that I was ready for a change, or I thought I was ready for the change. Maybe I actually was. Oh, nice. Old binders from the old days. Wonderful. Well, Dreama, someone's commenting. Who is that? Oh, Simone. Yeah. I think she'll be at the conference this year, and I hope you're coming, Simone. I don't know if I have you on the list. You should message me if not. But I have the list right here. But anyway, yeah. So yeah. I hope you just shoot me an email. But there have been so many times where I was just like, I'm so ready. I am ready. But one of the things you learn is that quitting is initiating. In fact, quitting is just about the most initiating thing you can do. And if I really break down and kind of break open what initiating is, I love Alokanand Diaz and his work on polarities and his description of the 6 and the 36. He might have even talked about it on your interview with him, I'm not sure. But the 6 is the generator gate of sexuality coming off the solar plexus, and it's about union and bringing people together. And the 36 is the manifestor gate. It's 36 and 22, but they're in polarity to each other. So the 6 is sort of the archetype of union, the archetype of no matter how bad things are, we will stick together, we will bond, we will unite. And the 36 is the manifestor archetype that says, I'm going my own way, I'm leaving, and see you later. We've had the experience, and now we're done. If you look at the keynotes of sexuality for the 36, it's there's leaving involved. You leave. And so I'm a generator, and I wanted so much to leave and to quit. And I've wanted so much over these past 7-8 years to leave and quit a number of things. to leave a relationship that's not working out, to leave a situation of any kind that's not working out. And it hits this plateau, and what happens is when you're on that plateau, and if you initiate and quit, then you just start back over at the beginning and you hit the same plateau a couple years later. And so you're in a relationship, and the relationship gets to this point of quitting, and you leave the relationship, you start the new one, you have the honeymoon phase, it's amazing, a year or two goes by, you hit the exact same point, and you're like, I've been here before. The only way metamorphosis actually occurs, because the throat is all about metamorphosis. Manifestors are all about metamorphosis, change, transformation. The only way transformation actually occurs is staying in that plateau state a little bit longer, just a little bit longer. And I don't want this to be taken the wrong way as some sort of resignation to life or anything like that. It's not about that. It's about being able to really wait to respond. It's about the waiting part. When there is nothing to respond to. Yeah, okay, not responding. Okay, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait because I want to quit. I want to start something new. I want to, it's waiting. There's two waiting. There's the waiting of the not self, and there's the waiting of living your design. And the waiting of the not self is waiting to truly start living. It's waiting for that future point when I can really begin to live. Waiting for things to change so I can live. Waiting for something to happen so my life starts. That's not waiting. That's not waiting to respond. That's the mind preventing you from actually waiting to respond, if you know what I mean. And so for me, there have been so many times where I thought I was ready, and I felt ready. I convinced myself I was ready, but something wouldn't let me initiate leaving my job. And I was let go. I mean, without going into too many details about it, the company's situation changed drastically. It's a very small company anyway. I've worked at a digital publishing company called Blue Fire out of Seattle, and really incredible place to work. Really working with libraries and working with nonprofit educational institutions, devoting a lot of time to open source initiatives and making books accessible to people. And the most recent project I've been working on is the Banned Books Project, which is kind of making banned books available and so on, and doing really exciting work. So it's been rewarding in its own way. But of course, feeling this pull to human design and going, okay, as soon as I leave, I can really do human design, and then it'll really start. It's like, then it'll really start. And what I've learned is, no, this is life. I mean, once you leave, and then there's something else that your mind will tell you you're waiting for to really start. And there's always something on the horizon, and it's not about that. So if I had any advice to the generators out there and manifesting generators, it's really when you get to the plateau, when it feels like you're stuck, when it feels like you're not moving, that is right before the change. That, and the deeper it goes into that stuck feeling, the bigger the metamorphosis is going to be. And that if you preempt that metamorphosis, if I would have quit 5 years ago, I'd be exactly where I am now. But for the past 5 years, I would have been waiting for this point too in a different way. It would have been, I would have maybe taken another job somewhere else because I wasn't ready to start doing human design full time. And so it's really, it's kind of like the High Desert Human Design Conference, which has grown organically and has been built. We can't start things, we can only build them. And then they start on their own when we have built them. Once we've built it up, it just kind of takes on a life of its own. It becomes bigger than us. And at this point, the HDHD conference is bigger than me. There's so many different people involved, and it's just become this big thing. And it's really, that's what we're here to do, is to build. And the change comes when the change comes. We can either be ready for it or not. What I've noticed is so many generators, I mean, all types do this, but just speaking as a generator, and myself included in this, will try to convince everyone and themselves that they're ready. And it's like, okay, you want a relationship? Well, do you have the time for that? Do you actually have the space for that? If you create the space for that, you're going to have the relationship, but you have to make the space first. You have to build the platform for that. Oh, you really want to have good friends in your life? Okay, have you built the platform for that? You're a builder. I mean, we're here to build. Have you built the chairs for them to sit in, so to speak? doing high desert human design. Okay, I want to have a community of people that I trust and respect and cherish. Can I actually build the space for that and build something for them to come? I don't have to fill up the space. I just have to build the chairs. You know, it's kind of, but so often the generators will try to convince everyone and themselves they're ready for something, but they haven't actually made the space. So a lot of the waiting is just waiting for things to take their course so the space opens up. And I was not ready until now because I was working 40 hours a week doing extremely brain intensive, exhausting work as a software developer on, you know, these apps and so on. And now I'm actually kind of excited. I mean, I look back and I go, how was I even able to do the videos and the conference and so on with all this work? And now I'm like, I'll tell you, it has been incredibly, incredibly satisfying just these past 2 weeks. This is actually my last day, so this is a little bit of
Oh, congratulations!
day. And after this, I'm actually going to do another code check-in, and I have another review and so on. But yeah, this is a big moment for me. I've been at Blue Fire for 9 years, and I would never have chosen to leave on my own. I mean, this is another meaning of no choice. Is like, I thought, okay, I'm ready to go, but it wasn't until the Manifestor founder actually told me, hey, some big changes, and we no longer have the financial ability to you know, keep you on. And I was really surprised at my ability to take in that information and really just continue on with my life. It was, I mean, it was a really, sometimes there's these impacts that can really take the wind out of your sails. And I've had those. I know exactly what those impacts are. And it's an impact where you lose a lot of libido. You've invested heavily, you love someone deeply, and you lose them. Or you love an animal and it dies, or you know, something like that. You love a business you've made and the business fails. I mean, there's a lot of things that can really take the wind out of your sails. And with this, it did not take the wind out of my sails. It was actually permission to really, permission to see what happens if I do actually just test out the foundation I've built. You know what I mean? It's kind of, it's always scary for a first line. I'm a 5-1. First lines are always scared that they don't really have the foundation they think they do. This is why they're constantly trying to explain things to people to make sure they really know it. You know, they're constantly teaching to make sure they've actually learned it. And this is really the time where I go, okay, do I have this foundation? And, you know, it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. So far, so good. It's a step at a time. It's like, okay, the first step, I didn't fall. Okay, the second step didn't break. The third step seems to be going okay here. You know, and I'm taking these steps. And so far, it hasn't broken and I haven't fallen down the cliff, so to speak. But it's always scary for a first line to really test out. It was kind of like that first year of HDHD of like, I guess we're doing it. People bought plane tickets. Okay, I mean, let's see if it actually works. So, but yeah, I do have a lot of things I'd like to build. The first thing I built, as soon as I got the news, I just immediately, I wanted to do classes for a long, long time. I already knew I had a few ideas, classes I wanted to do. I narrowed down, I'm doing a class on the lines, and I built out a curriculum. And I started by writing out everything I want to teach on the lines. And then I basically organized it and I put it into earlier and later material and what kind of depends on each other. And okay, I'll do profiles after I do the lines because the profiles kind of assume an understanding of the lines. And then I put some kind of more advanced material later, the kind of rave cosmology keynotes and true purposes of the lines, the true profile, we can call it. And yeah, and I looked at it and I ended up assembling it, and it turned out to be about 10 classes worth of material. And so I'm offering this course on the lines. It's my first course, and I'm really excited to have this opportunity just to see how it goes. Obviously, as a desire person, I am very much outcome oriented. And so the outcome that I want of this class is that everyone who attends gets multiple, I mean, maybe even every week, opportunities to have their chart analyzed, So to actually have their own body graph analyzed. So I'll be doing the thing where anyone who asks a question, it's a 50-minute lecture followed by 30 minutes Q&A. Maybe take a 5-minute break in between. And during Q&A, whenever anyone asks a question, I'm going to put their chart up and answer the question in the context of that body graph. And then throughout the week, we have a group where we'll be discussing and kind of having additional opportunities. And I also have some very exciting surprises about the class that I cannot divulge at all, because part of the fifth line sort of status, I guess, modus operandi is we really want to under-promise, over-deliver, because our reputations mean everything. And so if people leave the class going, yeah, that was okay, then it's a failure. They can't leave the class going, oh, that's pretty good. They need to leave the class going, oh my God, I can't believe what we got out of this, and telling everyone.
Can I just interject with, I've never left one of your YouTube videos being like, that was okay.
Okay.
Like, I can't imagine a class with you.
Yeah. Jonah, you've been like such a huge part of my process. It's wild to think back, like the days I would just have you in my ears for hours. Like there's just something about the way you teach that I really connect with. And so I imagine this class is going to blow people's socks off.
Well, I appreciate that so much. And I mean, really a lot to me. And yeah, I put a lot of energy into it, and I couldn't announce it till I kind of built it, at least enough. So I built out the titles of each class, the topics, what we're going to cover, and it's a lot of material, and it's stuff that I'm actually really excited to teach. And then I also am really excited for people to get some of our surprises. There's some fun surprises I have in store. So
yeah. Wow. And when does that start?
It starts pretty much, it starts July 11th. So it's starting in just a little over. It's coming right up.
And it'll be a cohort of 10 people?
We'll see how many join. I have set the maximum to 20.
Oh,
If we do end up with filling it with 20, then what I'm going to do is I have some plans for that, just to make sure, adding some kind of additional midweek classes and stuff like that. If we get 20, but we'll just have to see. I haven't done any promotion. I've just basically, I guess I posted it on my Instagram and I posted it on my YouTube. And what I've noticed about HDHD is that the right people tend to hear about it and find out about it, and it actually has worked really well. And so I'm hesitant to make a big announcement with groups that I don't really have that connection with. I'm a fifth line, so obviously if anyone wants to join, if you're hearing about it and you feel called to join, you should definitely get a hold of me and join, because there is a sort of self-selection process where some people are just going to be like, oh yeah, I want to learn with Jonah, great. But I wouldn't want a situation where people are thinking, oh, people have told me that this Jonah guy has something to teach me. I should do it because I was told that he's going to be a good teacher. I want it to be, oh yeah, you're interested in what I have to say and you kind of know what you're getting into. And so we'll see. So far, I announced it on Facebook in the Human Design Catalyst group, here on Instagram, and then on my YouTube, and that's it. But yeah, I'm totally happy with 10. I would also be happy with 20. I don't really have much of a preference. I don't think we'll go much over 20. If there's a huge deluge of people who really want in, I don't want to turn too many people away. Of course, that will do at a certain point. But it really pains me to turn people away. We have a wait list right now for High Desert Human Design, and I'm doing everything I can for the conference to see if we can make space for them with workshop-only tickets and things like that. So I've been talking. I was on the phone yesterday with a venue trying to set up, some extra. They have a 40 cap, really wonderful venue that I was seeing if I could put some extra events there. And, is there a way that we can make space for the folks on the wait list? Because I really want to be able to include people, and I don't like saying no. I have gate 29. I don't like to say no, you can't come. Better luck next year. That's not a very good answer. And so, but that hasn't been a problem yet with the class. The class is sort of. I had some signups kind of right away, and then there have been a few signups since then. But at this point, I'm really just excited to give it a shot. And if anyone out there is interested, I think it'll be a really I tried to price it affordably, and I'm offering financial assistance for those who need it. Just email me. My email is on the website. I'll post the link to it afterwards. The website is tinyurl.com/the lines or something. So I'll post the link because it's a little bit, I made a URL for it. But in any case, you can also find it if you go on my, just go on my Instagram, there's a link to it. It's in my bio. But yeah, so I've priced it at $900 for 10 weeks. And then I looked at some other classes and what people were charging, and it seemed kind of in that range. And then I also have this financial assistance option. What I did was I was getting messages from people asking about help in that department. And so I just made a post on Human Design Catalyst with a GoFundMe that said, please fund human design education. If you'd like to donate, I'll kind of do matching donations in terms of giving people access to more education. And so I raised some funds that way. So just email me, don't let price be a prohibitive factor. I would rather, the people that really want to learn get a chance to learn. But at the same time, I don't think it's too expensive. I've also set up a payment plan so people can do 3, 6, or 9-month payment plan at no extra fee. So.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, it's worth it.
Yeah. That seems like a great value. I mean, just knowing what you have to give, and you've been so incredibly generous in the human design space already. So yeah. I'm like, it's about time, Jonah.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate it.
And if this coffee talk alone, if nobody's even seen you on YouTube, this, like, it shows you his, like, depth in his embodying and living his own design, and just diving and so much. I can't imagine how rich it's going to be to learn the lines with you.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot.
Just your desire for people to have, I don't know, just this solid understanding of human design, and a way that you even just tell stories about your life. I can't imagine like how you're going to weave the lines together. I mean, it's just, yeah.
Thank you. I do have some fun. I mean, that's how it is when you're building something. You get creative with it, and generators were really meant to create. And I know that I've initiated, if I find myself in a situation where I have an obligation and an expectation and a sort of a sense of dread about having to fulfill some expectation. And so it is a slow process for me of, like, maybe that's why I didn't make a huge announcement. I built the curriculum, made a post, and I got a couple signups, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. Oh, they're joining. Oh, awesome. I start to see the names pop in, and I'm like really pumped and like excited about people joining. And I think that that's important, because as a generator, I have to remain excited and creative and engaged and building and vital. And I don't want it to be making a big announcement and a bunch of people join where then I go, oh no, what do I have to do? I'm going to have to do this. And I have to do that. Like and that hasn't happened yet. I mean, thankfully it hasn't happened. It will, but it's kind of, that's always the test, because I do get asked this a lot as a generator. Aren't you initiating? Aren't you starting this? Aren't you? And I just say, well, if you've really built it, then by the time you're done building it, it'll pretty much announce itself. Like, yeah, you might build a press release for it, but at that point, the press release writes itself, because you're not trying to build on a foundation of straw. You're building, I mean, I'm also a first line, so that's maybe how I think about it, but it's kind of like these 8, so I'm writing all these bios for people now. We're doing, for the HDHD conference, we're doing like speaker and crew spotlights. And it's been a breeze. I've realized that it's so easy for me to write the bios because I know these people and I've connected with them, and it's just, we have such a rapport, and it's just easy. And that's how it was with the class, where as soon as I was able to get the curriculum, I mean, there was a moment of panic. I mean, there's always a moment of panic when you get news of a big change. Anytime there's a big change coming, it's like, change is scary. It's scary for everyone, and okay, here's a big change. You've been working at this place for 9 years, and suddenly the change is there, and you're not working there anymore. And there's, new new horizons. And so I won't say that wasn't a little bit of a startle, but what I've noticed is as soon as I start building, I just feel better. It's like if I just kind of sit there in a catatonic state of not knowing what to do, it's like if I try to outthink it, I'm not going to get anywhere. But the moment I put pen to paper, the moment that, even if it's just a brain dump, even if it's just completely disorganized, and then I get another sheet of paper and I start to kind of assemble it and organize it. And then pretty soon I've built something. And then I look at what I've built and I go, okay, this is feeling good. You know, it's kind of like you're not sure, you have like writer's block, or you're a musician and you're not sure what to do. And then you start playing, and then pretty soon you look back, or you kind of play back what you've just played, and you go, there's something there. I like that chord progression. I can work with this. And then you come back the next day and you add a new melody, and you add a new thing. And that's what it is for us. I mean, we're here to build. And anytime there's despair for a generator, or a manifesting generator, anytime they feel ennui, they kind of feel this despair of just not knowing what to do. Doesn't matter how little it is, just start building something. I mean, build a sandcastle, build a, anything really. I mean, I know what it's like to feel like you're not responding to anything in life. I know what it's like to have a huge blow to your libido where someone you loved, they're gone, or a business or anything. I mean, anything that you've invested heavily into, you've put all your energy into it, it's been cut off, you've been impacted, you're experiencing that separation, and you're never getting that energy back. And so your libido, it isn't really ready to then invest heavily in something new. But find something you can. I mean, that's a big part of this 360 transit we're going through now, is if you're feeling melancholic and if you're feeling like nothing matters and you're in a place of despair, just really go for a walk and like find an anthill. I'm serious. Like, find something that seems so minor and so insignificant and just sit with it, and you'll start to get into it. I mean, something so small. There's a wonderful book called Book of Illusions by Paul Auster, one of my favorite authors. And the book begins, I don't think this is a big spoiler because it's in the first couple pages, with a man who has lost his whole family in a plane crash. And it's devastating. And he's driven them to the airport, and they get on the plane and it crashes. And for 2 years, he doesn't get off the couch. He grows a beard. I mean, this is all in the first couple pages of the book. He's an amazing author. I mean, by page 5, you're like, oh my God, this is like devastating, right? But he doesn't have, he gets a ton of money from the government, from the plane crash. So it's one of the worst things that can happen for a generator. They don't have to work. It's one of the worst things. Like, that's great when you kind of need to work, because you at least find something, right? But he doesn't work, and he just sits, and he just atrophies. He completely atrophies. And it's about 2 years later, he's completely inaccessible to the world. Nobody can reach him. He's alienated himself from life. He's become just a statue, a crumbling statue. And he's watching a film. He's watching TV, channel surfing mindlessly, like doom scrolling, basically. And he gets to an old 1920s silent film, kind of based on Charlie Chaplin. It's a fictional character named Hector Mann. And this guy has a mustache, and he starts twirling his mustache, and he starts doing a little dance. And he smiles, and he actually laughs for the first time in 2 years. And incredible story, highly recommended. Book of Illusions. I won't say any more, but that to me is what all generators and manifesting generators have to contend with. That when you've invested so much and you've lost it, and you've had every last drop of energy that you've poured into, that love you have poured into, ripped away from you, and you are left with nothing, it can take 2 years. Find one thing that actually makes you smile. So don't give up. For all the generators out there, if you're in that doom scroll atrophy mode, we've all been there. And with 360 especially, that's something that's very relevant to all of us right now. But even if it's just some obscure 1920s silent film, something will come along. Something will come along, even if it takes 2 years.
Wow. Wisdom about the rut.
Just of the rut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe me. Is that what you said? Rut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the rut, like
Yeah, we get
it's like that rut space, but it really is kind of a magical space when you put it in that perspective.
it doesn't feel magical at the time.
No, I've been in that space for like the last 6 months, and it feels like I'm coming out of it now, and I'm like, and honestly, your video recently where you were talking about building, it was like it was all stuff that I kind of understood, but the way that you just explained it, it just had all these light bulbs go off for me, and I was like, holy shit, like I've been building, we're building. It's just the mind's perspective doesn't see it like that, especially as an MG. The mind wants everything to just happen and, you know, to put the vision out there, and it just explodes. But it really is, it's a labor of love for generators, and it's just like a one day at a time, you know, one brick at a time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Speaking right to the generator.
Yeah.
Man.
Right to my little generator heart.
Like I was getting emotional, you talking about all of that. I was like, oh.
Well, especially the patience to wait. And I think so many of us can relate to like, I hate this stupid job, and like, I want to be doing my passion. And I've definitely been in that space. I've quit jobs too early. And then, you know, even over this last couple years, I quit my job in 2020, and it kind of all just happened the way it was supposed to. Like, I was a personal trainer and I lost all my clients because of COVID, and it was one of those things where I was relaxed about it. I was like, wow, I have no money coming in. What am I going to do? The restaurant I was working at on the weekends closed. And I was just in that space of like, all right, well, carry on. But then I was in that for 2 years and really struggling. And it was kind of one of those things where I had this awareness of, this is not the right struggle for me right now. I do want to keep building, but I don't need to be like struggling financially in order to build that. I can go back to restaurant work and do that a couple days a week. And so it just felt like my time in restaurants wasn't done yet. And I could just easily kind of transition back into that through my network and still keep building what I'm building. And so I think a lot of generators maybe think that we don't need that side job, maybe, or while we're building our passion. And I think you're a really good example of that. I think a lot of people were surprised to know that you had a full-time job just because of how much you have built and how much you've done in human design.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And yeah, I'm a fifth line on gate 46, which if you're a fifth line, you can see what people project. So you're a 3-5, right, Brandy? Are you? No? What's your type?
4-6.
Oh, 4-6. Okay. Okay. And then 2-4 for Teresa, right? So neither of you have the fifth line then, but something you can kind of look for with the fifth lines in your life. If you look at what gate that fifth line is on, that is going to be what the expectations are around. So if it's the fifth line of gate 41, the gate of fantasy, then that will be projecting that they have certain fantasies. Oh, you must want to do this. You must really want to go. It's like I had a 41-5 visit, and everyone would say, you must want to go to the Ferris wheel. You must want to go up the Space Needle. You must want to go, you know, it's kind of, they project that. Well, I have gate 46, which people project success. And the funny thing is, it's not like I'm not supposed to be successful. I mean, the fifth line kind of is supposed to live up to it. People are really excited when a 41 actually does have that fantasy. They kind of want them to be full of fantasy. They want someone out there to really have a lot of fantasy, or, you know, in my case, they want someone out there to actually succeed where others fail. That's what it's all about. But at the same time, and I've been really lucky in that regard. I have been successful in many of these endeavors. But it's also interesting being a fifth line where you kind of see what goes into it, and it's not what people imagine. People imagine that it's something different than it really is. And success is really being in the right place at the right time. It's in the G center, and G center is so much about right place, right time, and really being lucky. And what is it to be lucky? It's lucky to be in the right place, and it's lucky to be who you are there. It really is there's a deep connection between the sense of feeling lucky and so on. And you can't really have expectations. It's part of the channel of discovery where I get to discover what's going to happen. I mean, the more expectations I have, the more I preclude the ability to discover, or I prevent myself from discovering. So it really is about, yeah. Yes, we have some interesting comments. So yeah, gate 16, line 5, that would be the expectation of being really skilled, really talented. People are going to expect, oh yeah, that's someone who can play the hell out of that concerto or something. Yeah, some of the different ones. 57.5, that would be, they'd expect you to be the intuitive, the psychic, and so on. So there was a question I saw from Jennifer Johnson. Are there HD meetups in Santa Fe? Yeah, so we do the High Desert Human Design Conference every year. That's in September this year, September 13th to 17th. We also do the winter respite, and we did a spring fling this past spring. So I guess we're kind of doing smaller interim events. And then we have the Human Design Catalyst series. So anyone passing through Santa Fe, shoot me a message. I do that with my good friend and business partner, Michael Steenbeck-Littman. He runs the High Desert Human Design Instagram account. Lots of fun memes on there, and the meetups there. So yeah, some really nice comments. Thank you, Colin Design, and others posting about the 360.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've had that 360 forever because I have gate 3 twice, but then 60's hooked up to it forever.
Oh, so you're like, this is business as usual. Yeah. There was a question from Rachel Ross. Does this apply to fifth lines not part of the incarnation cross? Not in the same way. I mean, the profile or the incarnation cross, because that is what the profile is just so powerful. It's such a huge part of who we are. And so it's much less. I mean, sure, everyone has expectations placed on them, but profile plays such a strong role. I would say there are certain gates where, a fifth line on gate 10, the roll gate, does kind of act like a secondary profile, but no, it's really just applies to the incarnation cross. And then Jennifer Johnson says she's visiting Santa Fe. Well, welcome to Santa Fe. I am unfortunately I'm not there right now. I mean, I'll be back next week, and so shoot me a message, and depending on how the timing works out, we actually have Ashley Gray Duncan hosting Human Design Catalyst this Monday. And so for those who don't know her, she's a quad-right splenic projector, and she'll be doing talks at the conference this year as well. And so, yeah, absolutely get a hold of me, and I can pass along the details.
Awesome.
Yeah. And we broadcast a lot of the most of the Human Design Catalyst talks. They're just we've been doing them for 4 years now. We have a lot of fun with it. We kind of do special events depending on the time of year and things like that. So for Valentine's Day, we do partnership analysis, and we do love gates, and we do the design of sexuality. For Thanksgiving, we do Penta and talk about families. It's like we kind of theme it. We do Encounter for Halloween, and talk all about ghosts and demons and all of that. So
yeah,
a lot of fun.
So if people want to find you, Jonah, they can find you here on Instagram.
That's probably the best. I do have a website where you can get a hold of me with my email. You can find me here on Instagram, Dempcy.
And then YouTube, of course, is plethora, the massive library of Jonah on Instagram or on YouTube.
Yeah, that's probably
highly recommend it.
Right. You can definitely you can message me on there as well too. I would say message me here on Instagram, but if you want to check out any of the videos, go on YouTube. I also run the Human Design Catalyst Facebook group, which is a good group if you're learning human design and want a good group of people to bounce ideas off of or post your chart, things like that. It's a good one. Oh, and you can check out the High Desert Human Design Instagram account ran by my good friend, business partner, Mike. We post updates on there as well, and also a lot of memes. Yeah. A lot of fun.
A
lot of fun.
Very niche memes.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to give a shout out to Jen Cole. She's another Santa Fe local, and it's been very instrumental in the conference. And she has a new podcast, so be sure to check out the podcast. She just had Dave Myers on as her first guest, which was awesome, and she's been posting a lot. So now she has a lot in the pipeline as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love Jen.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you
joining,
so much,
Jonah.
Jonah.
You.
Amazing, Jonah. You're just a lovely human.
Well, thank
Happy to know.
you both. It's been really wonderful chatting, and yeah, really, really happy to be seeing you both in September.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah, and your lovely humanness is not just a projection.
No.
You truly are.
You've seen behind the curtain, you know. You've been to my house, seen how I live.
That's what kind of brings the fifth line down from their pedestal when you get to really kind of come behind the curtain.
Sizers and records falling over and dishes.
Okay.
All of it.
Your bathroom is one of my favorite bathrooms I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just
cool.
It just
all the
feels
books
good
too.
when you're in there. I don't know.
Look, there is a small piano there.
Yeah,
there's
there's piano. And then I love how at the conference, I think it was last year, you had just like a raw loop playing
in the
there.
bathroom.
The raw lectures during the conference.
I just go in there just to hear it.
Like 90 hours of kind of random looping. There's about 27 wave cosmology material. It's just, you know.
Just taking a pee and getting shattered.
And I love the gatherings at your house too, because it's like every single room is uniquely who's in there. You know, there's a different vibe, so you can always find your vibe at Jonah's
That's
house.
a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a bit little stations, you know, stations.
Yeah.
I was
fun
joking.
house.
First year, I was joking I was the wah buster because people kept self-organizing into big circles of chairs. I would go along and move it back into pentas because I can't stand the paradigm of sitting in a circle and waiting for the talking stick and then introducing yourself. And I mean, just I maybe I guess I'm a penta person, not a wah person. But yeah, I was the wah buster that year because I would go through and I would reorganize everything into these little tables where people could talk amongst themselves in small groups. And, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, really excited to see you both, and thank you for having me on. It's been a really good.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for joining us. You can, if you didn't catch the beginning, highly recommend going back after we repost this and listening to Jonah's origination with human design stories. Fantastic. Like I said, you can catch Jonah on YouTube, Instagram here. And if you enjoyed this coffee talk, we have many more in the past. We don't know when we're doing them in the future. It's just what we respond to. So thank you all for being here. And yeah, love yourself.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.